Hello, and welcome to the Original Remake Podcast, a show where we take the role of Hollywood executives shamelessly exploiting your nostalgia for money. My name is Pat, and I'm joined by Amy,
Hello.
Andrea,
Hello.
and Nick.
Oh, hi.
And today we are discussing the 2012 Prometheus.
You mean 2012 smash hit Prometheus.
If I remember correctly, I didn't think it, I remember reading it didn't do too bad in the theater.
It did fair, if I remember correctly.
Oh. I remember I wanted to see it.
I brought at least 2 of the tickets.
All right.
So
I think it had a Rotten Tomato score of like 75%.
Yeah. When I saw that when we watched it, I was like, wait, it's 75% fresh. So I don't understand why there's animosity for it. I gotta say, when we started watching it, I didn't. So, full disclosure, I have not seen Alien, which is probably a problem.
that was going to be my first question: is how much of the Alien franchise do you know? Because I like Alien so much that I have a Blu-ray set that's a literal book that you take the Blu-rays out of.
Oh,
Nice.
cool! I love those. I haven't seen Alien. So I didn't really know what I was getting into. Like, I knew that this was like the movie where the aliens come out of the people's chest. I knew it was that film or that series. But I didn't understand that I'd be walking into this much gore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay with gore, but just like,
Fair. Nick, have you seen the Alien films? Any of them?
I have seen at least the first one. I want to say I saw the original 3, but that was like back in 0203.
Gotcha.
So it's fuzzy. I do remember all the bits and pieces. Honestly, I remember things like Alien versus Predator a bit more than I remember the originals.
Well, that's sad. We'll continue.
I'm not mad at you. I'm just disappointed. Go to your room.
Clearly, the Predator is obviously the superior creature.
Get to the chopper.
And superior movie franchise. The Alien.
Oh my gosh.
No.
Nearly exists.
I may have to disagree.
So, okay, I'm a big Alien fan. I've even read a couple of the comics, and there's a bunch of books. They really do have like a pretty good extended universe. There's even a role-playing game now, which I'll be playing at PAX Unplugged, which I'll be going to this December. So Alien is a huge franchise. I think for the non-Alien people, it's important to know the hype for this film back in 2012 is in the first Alien film, there is something they call an engineer, and you don't see their face. It's just that mask that looks like kind of an elephant trunk.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of look at it and then they just move on.
Huh.
So in the first Alien movie, they just skip the entire idea that there's an actual possibly like alien ship, and they just go in and get face hugged by the alien out of the egg, and then the story progresses from there. So one of the big things is, well, what is this like, right? Like they never really get to explore where did this thing come from, who made it, that type of thing. And so for Prometheus being that film, the hype level, I mean, you are talking similar levels of hype to like, the Dark Knight when the advertising for that came out.
Oof.
I mean, Alien fans were hyped for this movie, and I think when it came out, because of that, there was a lot of backlash because it kind of wasn't either. It wasn't a good Alien film, and it wasn't a great First Contact film, but it could have been a better version of any one of those films. To give an example, the sequel to Prometheus, which you probably haven't seen, is called Alien Covenant. And in the first 5 minutes of that film, they basically get rid of all the engineer stuff, and then they're like, okay, from here on out, this is an alien film. It is a horror film, body horror film. and it's fantastic, and I really do enjoy Alien Covenant. It's not perfect either, but they basically decide, okay, we're done with this first contact stuff. We're just gonna kill off everyone who's in the previous movie, like off screen, and then we're just gonna start again with this movie and make it an Alien movie. So that's a little bit of kind of the background of the franchise and where Prometheus specifically fits in.
And even with all of that, Predator still is better.
Oh no.
Understood. I'm glad we're on the same page.
Listen, I don't hate Predator, the Predator franchise, but neither of those films are particularly high quality. And Aliens, whatever else you say, the movie Alien and the movie Aliens by Ridley Scott and James Cameron are two of the absolute classics. And Predator is a decent action movie from the 80s that is just old. But a hundred years from now, film lovers will remember Alien and Aliens, and they will not talk about Predator.
And they will
that's my opinion.
Still quote, "Get to the chopper."
Oh yeah. But that's like the best thing about that movie is Arnold can barely speak English.
I was going to say that's not Predator. That's Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's a difference.
In Predator, so many one-liners from Arnold came from Predator.
That's
How about
true.
that's the next movie we're going to make?
Oh,
Well, so they already did it though. Not completely, but a movie just came out this year on Hulu, I believe, called Prey. That was fantastic. So if you like Predator, you should see that.
Okay.
No, it's just it was a movie.
It's a movie? Oh, I thought it was a miniseries.
Very good.
Yeah.
Way better than the franchise.
Have you seen that, Nick?
I have not.
We don't have
I didn't
Hulu.
know.
You have to.
So not a real Predator fan, then you would say.
Oh no, I'm just 100% a troll.
You found the button and you pushed it.
Yep.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
Ridley
absolutely.
Scott, push.
No, I liked where Prometheus was going story-wise. I knew enough about the original Aliens franchise and what the xenomorphs were and roughly what they meant in pop culture and like how they popped into even Spaceballs, for example. Got a little cameo there. You know, things like that. I knew enough about it. It was nice to see the first contact story, but I think the execution was just absolutely awful.
Yes.
Predictable.
And that's kind of, you know, on my list of reasons to remake it is, as I said, like they didn't know whether they could make a first contact movie in the Alien universe without making it an Alien film, and their mistake is trying to do both and not just making a cool first contact movie, right?
I think they were so close though, because it isn't till essentially the last 10 minutes of the movie that the true xenomorph pops out and you see a recognizable alien from the Aliens franchise.
Yes, but there's that middle part for me really sags down the movie where again they do the classic horror movie thing where they split up those two idiots. Sean Harris, fantastic actor.
I honestly thought they were going to be the only two that just walked away.
That would have been even better. Yeah, they just still walking at the end of the movie. But you know that whole scene where they get stuck in the room and then Holloway gets infected, that whole middle section, and Shaw gets the alien kind of in her womb and has to get it extracted. That scene was cool, but like that whole 30-minute section,
the second act, if you will.
Yeah, it derails the whole first act, which I thought was incredible and so exciting. And it just kind of brings it back down to just kind of like, you know, a regular or in this case, a bad version of an Alien film. Does that make sense?
It does. I wish they had gone into a little bit more depth about the black liquid.
Yes.
And those vases. They didn't really say exactly what they were. They just called them vases. And like, how does David know? Like, he beelines it right for one of the vases, picks it up and takes it.
Yeah. So
and it's like, do the aliens? So it's like the aliens come from the black liquid. They are like the face huggers, and the face huggers implant something and the aliens come out of that.
From what I understand, and this is one of the things that's that, if you go onto like a subreddit for Alien, like that you can find a million topic conversation pieces about. From what I understand, the black goo both accelerates and breaks down life. So the beginning of the film, the very first scene, he takes like a vial of that special black goo.
Mm.
Then he dies, and like his DNA essentially becomes us, right? And from there, like the black goo can also be used to kind of just turbocharge evolution. And again, for those not familiar with the Alien franchise, the alien is the quote unquote perfect organism, in that it's perfectly designed to be able to withstand any environment, to be a hunter, to be very hard to be hunted, that type of thing. So it is, like it's like that's why it has like acid blood and things like that. So and you can see on the mural in the ship that they have an alien. And from what I understand from the numerous YouTube videos that I've watched in the past, is there was supposed to be a lot more in an early draft of the script about what the aliens were, what the engineers were doing, what they were trying to accomplish. And all of that is just kind of swept away so they can do kind of like a horror movie, and then we've got to save the Earth climax. And the gotta save the Earth thing is fine, but like the whole first contact thing just goes away, and they don't have time to do exactly what you're saying, which is actually explain what's going on in the film, right?
Yeah.
Like what is the goo?
Yeah, it's
What-
all up for interpretation, basically.
Right. Like, why is there goo now, and why is there like an egg for the aliens later on?
Do you
Yeah,
want to
exactly.
hear my theory?
Yes.
Okay, it'll be really quick. Watching this movie, I always thought the theory was these engineers made humans. Obviously, this planet is almost like a growing ground for like biological warfare. They're making
It is, yeah.
this
Yeah.
essentially to attack other planets, including Earth. Because I
Yeah.
think they did say at one point in the movie they were planning to go to Earth, or one of the
Yeah.
robots said they were planning to go to Earth. And then essentially their own biological warfare killed the engineers.
You're pretty spot
Disintegrated.
on there in regards to the planet that we land on is a weapons planet where they design these kind of weapons safely away from these weapons of mass destruction safely away from their home planets, and then they can send them out to destroy failed species. There's even I remember specifically there being a something Ridley Scott did an interview of some kind where he was talking about like how like he wanted one of the engineers to have been Jesus at one point, because he's very religious. A lot of his films have a lot of religious overtones. So yeah, in one of the interviews he was like it was too on the nose, that's why we took it out, but it's at one point he wanted one of the engineers to go to Earth, have been Jesus and been crucified, and that's why they wanted to destroy
Kill
Earth, because they're like, hey, we came here to help you, and you just killed our bro.
Oh, see, that
Which-
would have made sense. That was another thing I was confused about. Like, why did the engineers want to kill humanity if we were all basically the same? Did I understand that incorrectly?
You didn't misunderstand it, because it's so vaguely stated in the film. My understanding, again, based on kind of the a couple of the extended universe stuff, is that we're essentially a failed experiment.
Okay.
So their goal is to try and recreate life, because ultimately they don't know the origin of life either. So they're trying to become gods themselves. And it's kind of circular in that way. Like, we've created David, the artificial intelligence, to
Yeah.
be very human. We're trying to basically do what the engineers do with AI, but they're trying to do it with biological means. So we could presume that they've done this multiple times across maybe multiple planets, where they've tried to create a species and it hasn't worked out, and then they just send these ships, drop this goo, and just kill everyone.
So
essentially.
why is humanity a failed experiment?
Because we're violent and selfish beings.
I mean, so were the engineers to a certain extent, right?
Oh my god, the ego.
Yeah.
The one we've met. I mean, remember, they are literally gods to us. So
True.
But isn't this sort of something that Ridley Scott does either in anything he makes everything up to interpretation. There's always what's going on. I mean, Aliens essentially, well, the first one when it came out, a lot of people did not have their ends connected. They left the movie wanting more, not understanding.
Yeah, when Ridley Scott made the first Alien, it wasn't meant to spawn into a franchise. It was just a horror movie with a thing in space, right? So like
Sure.
they didn't know what the engineers were when they made him. They just went off of the Geiger art.
Oh,
And so the main reason for all of this kind of cool stuff in the design of the alien is I believe his name's Geiger. I could be mispronouncing that, but he designed all this cool kind of gothic, kind of weirdly sexual kind of art. And that's kind of what comes out of the alien, right? Like, especially in later movies, but even in the first Alien, this idea of like you're getting your mouth covered and it's impregnating you, then it's bursting out of your chest. It's like a penetration. It's very, I guess, rapey would be kind of the word, right? Like it's meant
Not
to
good
be
enough reason to use the word penetrate.
lowercase p penetrate.
I never thought of the art in any of these movies as sexual, but there's an actual thing. I'm gonna have to
just,
look it up.
you got a cleaner mind than I do, but no, but
I don't get turned on by seeing.
No, it's not that. It's not.
To each your own.
We're definitely not going to r/rule 34 today, okay?
Please,
That's
God,
not going to
no.
happen.
I guess what I'm trying to say is there is an overt sexuality and an overt sexual violence to how the aliens reproduce. It's like a parasite, but the way he designs it. If you go look up like a video of it, it's.
I'll do that at another time.
Yeah,
I'll look into it. I'm sure there is logic behind it. I just never thought of it that way. I just thought it was scary.
It was.
So I gotta ask, why remake this one?
So I do love this film. I love it because I love first contact films. So any film that's a first contact film, I will go see. But this is one of those films to me that the ideas are so fantastic and the execution fails to live up to the fantastic idea that it actually makes me both love and hate the movie at the same time. I feel the same way about The Matrix 4. I feel like that film has a lot of really cool ideas, but I hate it. And so it makes me hate the movie more because I think there was good ideas in it, if that makes sense.
Yep, totally does.
Absolutely.
So there's a masterpiece of a film in here that's a first contact film, and not just a first contact film, but a film that talks about the important question: what is the point of living? Are we just there to procreate? Is nature just designed us to procreate and that's it? Or is there a higher meaning for us to achieve something in our life, whether it be from a god or something like that? And that's what Shoal represents, right? Shoal represents the idea that the faith that she is there for a reason and that she is there to make the world a better place or accomplish something important for a reason. And this kind of first contact, why are we alive? Why are we doing what we're doing? Those are brilliant questions to talk about in the film. But as we've already discussed, the film just kind of skips over that and becomes a horror film about 30 minutes in after a really great introduction. So I would say I want to stop this from being a bad alien film, and I want it to be a good first contact film.
That's fair.
Back
I would like to see it be a good first contact film as well.
And kind of in that same vein, back to your point about it kind of stops in the middle and says, oh, hey, wait, I'm supposed to be an alien horror film. I think they could have done so much better by sticking to the storytelling in the middle and save the last like quarter of the movie. Like that really needed some help. The last, say, half hour of the film was just rough. Unbelievable kind of rough. Like you're already suspending disbelief because you're on an alien planet looking at a race of builders, engineers, if you will, that created you. So you're there, you're in that moment, but you're asking me to suspend a little too much with a giant rolling donut spaceship.
That was so dumb.
I
Oh
have,
my
I have,
God.
yeah, I have a note down here that says that goddamn spaceship scene.
Yep.
Like seriously,
Run
turn,
sideways, run sideways.
turn, just turn.
Yeah.
She trips and falls, and it's like, oh hey, maybe I'll just roll out of the way.
And this is
Anyways,
supposedly the
so
smartest character
aggravating.
in the film.
Oh my god, so aggravating.
Yeah.
Such a flawed end to. Anyways,
Yes, yeah.
but that part of the movie that needed help, that's when you bring out your horror. That's what you spend the first hour, 2 hour and a half getting through the story, laying some real groundwork to an already established franchise, something that gives you enough information to rekindle your franchise and launch a whole nother series of movies. You know, instead they tried to take the, in my opinion, sellout route and shock and awe and just put some gore on the screen. Two dudes trapped in a cave somewhere. You want to flip the horror demographic on its head? They survive. They're fine. You already laid the groundwork with Shaw's boyfriend getting infected by David. Like, you've already got the start, the kickoff point for how the aliens come to be. Like, you've already got that groundwork laid. Why did you have to go over the top and like rip dude's arm off?
And I kind of wish they'd kept the, like, I can't remember, Fifield. Kind of wish they'd kept him alive, because at first glance I really didn't like him, but then when he was like, I'm a geologist, I like rocks, I love rocks,
Yeah.
and he like kind of goes into it, and I'm just like, I would like to see this guy live.
That's Sean Harris. He is a fantastic actor that's kind of gone under the radar. He's been in Mission Impossible. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He's absolutely fantastic. And yeah, he's the smart one. He sees a bunch of like godlike aliens. Well, he doesn't know they're godlike, but he sees a master alien race. They're all dead. He's like, let's go back to the ship now.
Yes.
The only thing that annoys me about that is like 2 minutes before that, he does the wolf howl and he's like, these are my machines where I can track and map the whole thing. He's the mapper guy.
Oh my god, I know. I screamed that out in rage.
Yeah. How can he not find his way out? He literally made the map for them.
And not just that, but he has it in his little arm screen. Like, and somehow I'm supposed to believe that he and other scared guy that I don't remember the name of, just basically token actor to get his arm ripped off.
Yeah, he didn't have a job.
Like, yeah, he like playing with his hood is all I remember about him.
Yeah.
But like, they get lost somehow. At least feed me some BS about dude tripped and smashed the screen on a rock or something. Like,
right.
Give me a reason to believe that this is plausible. And if I'm to take a step back and pick this movie apart for things like that, those little things throughout the film are what really drove me nuts. I wanted to love it because of the story creation and the world building it was doing, but the little things like that about the guy that has the map getting lost just showed that the entire thing was plot armor driven and not a native like story to be told. That kind of
100%.
It drove me nuts.
The only thing is there's another scientist there, the woman from Game of Thrones, whose name I don't remember, but she works with Shaw a lot. Just have her leave and then leave the guy who knows the map to like go back with the people. You know what I mean? Like have the people who don't have the map in their suit. I mean, they probably all do, but like that was so frustrating to me. I'm like, your literal job so far has been to map the place and you can't get out of it. Like,
yeah, and there was too many times throughout that entire movie where I was asked to suspend even more disbelief than I was already doing, to the point at which I would have to throw logic and common sense out the window. And that, I think that asks too much.
I agree. All right, so let's move on to casting then. And I've got a note here that I wrote down to tell everyone. The original cast for this film is incredible. It's perfect. Some of them could have some more character development, but that's not the actor's fault. Idris Elba's accent is a crime against humanity, but I'm going to let it slide because the man is an icon.
Why did you think it was a crime against humanity?
It was bad.
It's terrible.
Really? It's bad.
Oh.
It's so bad. Just use his real accent. He sounds like a badass.
Yeah.
In real life, he sounds like a badass. I don't understand.
I guess. I mean, I'm not great at accents anyway, so I guess
Fair.
I'm a really bad judge of that.
Fair. But yeah, the acting is incredible. I mean, I've already mentioned Sean Harris. Guy Pearce is in this movie. Michael Fassbender's incredible. Charlize Theron is not great, but she is a great actress. Benedict Wong from the Marvel
Wong!
MCU is just plays a random guy in this movie. It wasn't this is pre MCU, so almost everyone on the ship is I know someone from somewhere, right?
You recognize them. at
You'll
least.
you'll be like, oh, that's that guy from that movie. And the fact that the movie is just 10 years old this year, it was hard not to just say, let's keep the same cast. But in the interest of doing the podcast and actually recasting, I gave myself one rule, and that is I can keep one of the main cast, and then I have to recast the others. And the person I'm keeping is Michael Fassbender as David, because this is the role he was meant to play. And he only gets better in Alien Covenant, the second movie, because a second David shows up. There's
Yep.
two of them. And so watching him act against himself is incredible. The way he's able to make his face work as the robot and keep the emotion, quote unquote, the emotion that the robot has in his eyes, and how he's able to subtly manipulate the humans, right? Like kind of like quietly asking Holloway for permission to poison him.
Yeah.
That, what would you do? Would you do anything? Okay, so you'd let me poison you, but he just didn't say that part. You know what I mean? Like,
How would you also not notice the person handing you your glass doing the thing with the finger and then just like dipping his finger in? Like it was pretty, I mean, I know it was pretty obvious.
Well, it was obvious to us because we knew he dipped his finger or had dripped the death drop on his fingertip, and it
Yeah.
was like just kind of holding it around.
But it changed the color of the champagne.
I think that's for the audience, right? So we know, hey, he put his finger in it, even though obviously, like, he does it, like, he doesn't even do it behind his back. He does it like in front of him.
Yeah.
So it is dumb, but it's one of those things where, you know, you just want the audience to know something. And like, they do this in movies all the time now. Like, we just saw Black Panther Wakanda Forever over the weekend, and they do that like 5 times. So like they say something, I'm like, no one would say this except unless you were talking to the audience, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
movies do it all the time these days. That's just what it is. But I agree that it's kind of another one of those, the character has to be dumb so that the plot can move forward, if that makes sense.
You need someone on the cast to be a reason to have your exposition.
Correct, yeah. Okay, so that's the only cast I'm keeping out of the entire cast. And just a note, I haven't gone down the entire cast, just kind of the main ones here. We'll start with, for Shaw, I've gone for Lupita Nyong'o, who, again, I mentioned I just saw Black Panther this weekend. She was fantastic in it and the first one. She was in 12 Years a Slave. She was in that Jordan Peele movie, which I can't remember.
Us, yeah.
Us, which I didn't care for, but she's good in it. So I think she's a fantastic actress, and I think she could take on this role pretty easily.
Good choice.
Thank you. Okay, and then for Holloway, who is Shaw's boyfriend, husband, I think they're just
Boyfriend, I think.
Yeah. I went with Sebastian Stan, another MCU person, but
I love Sebastian Stan.
He's really good, and I've only ever seen him in MCU stuff. I know he's been in other stuff, but like, it feels like that's all he's in, like from my point of view. So I'd like to see him in another franchise.
You don't remember him from Hot Tub Time Machine?
Oh boy, I sure don't.
Now, when recasting Holloway, would you make his character better than what he was in this movie? Because that's the only character I really did not like in this movie.
Yeah, I
He
didn't like him
bothered
either.
me, which is why
He seemed like the kind of scumbag that's like that believes what his girlfriend believes because he just wants to get in her pants.
I mean, after she confesses how sad she is that they can't have children, he's like, doesn't matter, let's have sex. Like, no, this is not real. I know they had to get her impregnated. They could have done that a completely different way.
Well, but this is what I'm
They
talking
made him
about,
out to be an ass.
where the film could take longer on those scenes, and then just don't worry about the horror. People are here for like bringing the people for a sci-fi film, not a horror sci-fi film. And so yeah, I would keep Sebastian Stan's character Holloway around longer, he wouldn't die early on. He would actually make it much closer to the end. Like I wouldn't infect him and turn him into a weird monster halfway through the film. I would, because then you can see his arc play out, right? And you see it partially play out during the film, which is she is a person of faith and he needs to see it. And when he sees it, his gods are dead. And now that's it. They're nothing special. Life is not particularly special. And so for him, somehow that is a letdown.
I see
that
where
he-
you're going with it, and I want to agree,
Okay.
but
I think
I
you're
don't
giving
know.
the character so much credit.
I want that to be that character. I want what you're saying to be that character, but I don't think he is. I think the character that they're describing when they have him stand up in the beginning and say, this is why we're here, this is our mission, and so on, that bit of exposition in the beginning kind of starts down that path. But from the very next minute after that, all the way through until that character dies, I see him as kind of just, I guess I'm constantly questioning how he got there. He's
Yes.
supposed to be the best in his field. He's supposed to be this uber nerd scientist guy, and I see him as like hoodlum from the streets.
Yes, yeah. I agree with that. And I think more importantly than that is the film doesn't need his character at all.
I think it could. I think it could mean so much more if, like you said, they didn't kill him off. If David's experiment was on one of the two guys that died pointlessly in the caves anyway. Like you're already sending them for plot reasons there to die. Why not do it more effectively? Why not try and, snake charm this weird, overly aggressive vine coming out of some black goo? Why not give them a different reason? Like, oh dude, I don't feel so good. Let's take the helmet off. Let's see what's going on. Oh, cough in your face and oh god, aliens are born. Like it could be such a more dramatic introduction as well, not just to preserve Holloway's character, but to really play off that dichotomy of God versus gods are dead.
Right. And if he lives longer, you can complete that arc, because I do think they had something in mind for him, but at some point during probably one of the many rewrites that this film got, because this film had like 3 screenwriters.
Oh.
Before, the guy who finished it was the guy from Lost. So if that explains what this movie is, David Lindelof is the guy who wrote the final version of the script. And listen, I don't hate him as much as some people do. He wrote the newest Watchmen series for HBO, and I thought that was fantastic. So he's not necessarily a bad writer, but he tends to just change things too often, in my opinion, from source material. And I think you let Holloway live, you let that arc play out, and you give it to, I actually don't mind the actor who plays him, Logan Marshall Green. He was in a really cool sci-fi independent movie called Upgrade, which is a really, really cool movie about him kind of getting some sort of artificial intelligence robot inside him that turns him into like a weapon. And it's
Sensing
really
a theme.
Yeah, it's a really well done, like very small sci-fi movie. If you've never seen it, go check it out.
Yeah, we're not saying he's a bad actor. It's
No.
just the character maybe wasn't portrayed, or the writing wasn't what it should have been. It could have been better.
You could literally just have David poison Shaw and the same, outcome, and have her impregnated and the same outcome, whatever. Holloway literally doesn't need to exist in the film as it currently is.
I agree.
Okay, so those are the kind of the 2 main scientists. Next, I'll jump on to Vickers, who is the ship's, or the kind of mission leader, and the daughter of Wayland, who is the owner of the Wayland Corporation, kind of the main villainous corporation in the Alien franchise. There's some speculation in the film that she gets asked if she's a robot in the film.
Yeah.
And there's like a couple fan theories that actually she is also a robot, and that all of
makes
Wayland's
sense.
Yeah, all of Wayland's kids are robots, which is something that I like. But I
mean,
listen,
that would stand to reason as to why she like wakes up out of her stasis pod, and instead of throwing up like Shaw does, she like does push-ups.
Yeah.
yeah, No, because that's just to show she's a total badass. Except
Uh-huh.
when confronted with a ship rolling at you. Then, but listen, Charlize Theron is a fantastic actress. You don't need to look at like Mad Max Fury Road. You don't need to look at Monster to see, and among many other films that she really, really is fantastic. But her kind of stoicism, trying to be kind of like a badass in this film, doesn't work for me. It just comes off as more emotionless, and so I picked Jodie Foster as my pick for Vickers, and the reason is she's older than Charlize Theron, which I believe is how you actually pronounce her name. She's older, but Jodie Foster I think is a fantastic actress. I think she's around 60 right now, and even if you have to de-age her a little bit, like dye her hair blonde, like they do that with actors, men and women, all the time. I think she has kind of fantastic authority, and she would be a great pick for kind of the leader of the expedition.
And I'm trying to think, in the movie, did Vickers actually need to do anything action wise at all?
Nope.
I don't think so. And I mean,
Aside from
Well-
run sideways, no.
Yeah, dodge a giant
One foot, one
slowly
way.
falling.
Yeah, I felt like her character was fairly useless.
Are you saying Jodie Foster just because of Contact?
Contact is one of my favorite science fiction movies of all time,
Okay.
but you'll note I didn't put Matthew McConaughey in this film. So
Thank you.
no, listen, Jodie Foster. I mean, look at her career. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's seen the film Inside Man with
Yes,
the
I love
Denzel film. She plays someone in that. In fact, if you take her character from that film, it's a perfect Vickers type character, right?
Everybody
Cool.
listening cannot hear my head shaking or nodding, but yes, I absolutely agree. Jodie Foster from Inside Man would be a perfect fit for the role.
Yeah. So Jodie Foster for me. Anyone else got a pick for Vickers?
I do.
Yeah,
I was gonna say Emily Blunt.
Uh,
Emily
I like her
Blunt
too. Yeah.
seems like what was she in? She was in
there's
Edge
the
of Tomorrow.
Edge of
Edge
Tomorrow.
yes.
I love that movie.
Um,
And the Quiet Place movies.
yeah. So I'm thinking more of like her from the Edge of Tomorrow movie, where she's that very stoic but kind of badass
Yeah,
character.
I don't want to say that knowing how you're going to die and not being able to die because you just die repeatedly and respawn, if you will, kind of gives you that air of badassery. I don't want to diminish it in any ways because Emily Blunt as an actress really pulled that off.
Yeah, she pulls off that
Yeah.
that sort of cold,
I think that could fit very well in a Vickers role too.
emotionless.
Yeah. Sicario, she was in that as well. And she plays someone who is tough, but still kind of gets broken down, her character throughout the film. Fantastic film about Mexican drug cartels. If anyone is seen it, it is one of her highlights for me, along with Edge of Tomorrow. But that's kind of what I would want in a Vickers, is someone who, yes, is tough, but like you still have to be able to see that she is like being undermined by her father at every turn, right, in this movie. And so Charlize Theron gives a good shot at pulling that off, but again isn't given enough screen time. Like there's a scene in the movie where she's goes into the bridge to check. Idris Elba asks her if she's a robot, and then they go presumably have sex. That scene doesn't do anything to her story or either of their arcs at all. I don't know why it's in the film.
It just kind of goes to show that she is emotionless and tries to give off the air that she doesn't really care.
Yeah, I was going to say, to expand on that she was there basically to do the hurry up and wait thing to inherit her father's company.
Yeah.
Like she had her own little lifeboat. She had her own robot doctor. She had all the things that she needed to do to increase her survivability as much as humanly possible. Starting of the in the start of this movie, you might even say to the point of like hypochondria, like going to the point of doing absolutely everything in excess to make sure that you're going to make it back, because you've got this multi-quadrillion-dollar organization that is going to now report to you, because all you got to do is wait for daddy to die.
Yeah, she hates risk. That's her plot line in the movie, is she hates any even slight risk, right? That's why she literally lives in an escape pod, which is part of her character I like. But really isn't explored because, like, again, it's one of these stupid plot point things where, like, she kills the sick person, but then everyone who was exposed to him, she's like, okay, I guess everyone else can come on the ship. Like, you know what I mean?
That was another one of those nitpicky parts of the movie where I was just like, just don't open the door.
Right.
Point that flamethrower at anybody who might open the door.
Well, they had to open the door because a storm was coming.
Yeah, but like to Pat's point, like everyone out there was exposed to whatever is getting Holloway. Like, don't open the door. They can sleep in the little truck.
Right. Okay, so then moving on to Wayland himself, I went with Patrick Stewart, who is 82, and I can see down here, I'm assuming
That would be me.
Andrea, you said he's too nice. You need someone more ruthless. I would like you to go see the film Green Room, in which Patrick Stewart plays a white supremacist.
Oh my God.
Intent on murdering a bunch of young people.
Okay. I don't know if I want to.
Ruin your image.
Oh my goodness.
So here's the thing. Wayland, and I think Guy Pearce does a really cool job, but he's in old person makeup. And the reason is there's a bunch of scenes in which he's younger that are flashbacks, but they cut them out of the movie. So if you're wondering why they hired Guy Pearce and then just put him in an old man suit, that's why they were supposed to be young Guy Pearce also.
I was 100% thinking that when I first saw it.
Is that like a director's cut thing?
There isn't, but they put a couple of the scenes in Alien Covenant with young Guy Pearce. So Patrick Stewart, or I guess I should say what I want Wayland to be, is not like a cackling villain. And Guy Pearce does play it very well, don't get me wrong. But what I want is, I want his evil to be banal. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want it to be mundane, the evil. So like I want his evil to be matter of fact. I am willing to let the human race burn if I get to be the last body in the heap, right? Or if I get to be the last one set on fire, I will let the earth burn. He's that type of evil, right? He's a billionaire building penis-shaped rockets and also having enough money to, do union busting. But
Bezos.
Yeah. No, this is a theoretical human being that will be yet unnamed, who can definitely afford to do lots of cool things for people, but is not going to do it because he wants to kind of get almost to space and then said he went to space. Theoretically, a theoretical person.
Or theoretically donate all your money to charity instead of paying your workers a living wage.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So
Just
I want
sure I've got the whole picture of what you're trying to describe.
Yeah,
there.
I don't want him to be a bad person in that he's like does evil things because he likes being evil. I want him to be a bad person because he literally thinks everyone else is garbage. And you know what I mean?
And I feel like that one of my picks was Anthony Hopkins. I feel like he'd fit that.
That's great as well.
Description pretty well. I mean, have you seen Westworld?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually does kind of describe it to a T.
Yeah.
Our RIP Westworld. The 5th season got canceled. So yeah, Anthony Hopkins is a great pick. But yeah, I think Patrick Stewart, I want to see him be the villain because I know he can do it. And again, he can just do it so matter of factly. And he can kind of, I remember, and this is not to derail us too much, I was able to go for work to a LinkedIn conference in Los Angeles. And during the meeting, this was back in like maybe 2014, 15, maybe 16, I can't remember. The CEO, the female CEO of Uber got up And one of her things she talked about was how they were saving the women of Saudi Arabia by having Uber be able to function there, so that the Saudi Arabia, they could get around the fact that Saudi Arabia wouldn't let women drive. And everyone in that room, including several of my very feminist coworkers, gave her a standing ovation for the fact that women don't need to drive in Saudi Arabia because we can Uber them places. It's that sort of kind of like, just people think they're good because they can convince themselves they're good, even if no, no, women should just be able to drive, and it should be a right that you should be able to drive, and not like, hey, they can catch an Uber, we've solved it, right? Like, so that's the type of evil I want. And I agree, Anthony Hopkins, and I think Patrick Stewart can also pull off that type of role.
I don't want you to ruin my mental image, my head lore of the almighty Sir Patrick Stewart, Jean-Luc Picard. Even as Scrooge, he wasn't evil.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
But he's played like foolish characters, and like he was in a Excalibur. Like, he's not a bad character in that one, but like he's played a multiple of roles. He's been on a stage actor. I think he could play a villain and do a good job at it. Okay, and then the last role I'm going to cast here is just the captain of the ship, who's his actual character name I don't remember. I just literally wrote captain.
It was like Yannick.
Yannick, yeah.
With a J.
Now, I'm assuming this is you as well, Andrea. You want to keep Idris Elba?
I do. I love Idris Elba. I'd want to keep him.
He's
brought
incredible.
a lot of humanity and sense in it.
Yeah.
So like,
I think it was the ground rod.
Yes. Yeah. And it was like he overruled Vickers. And
yes,
I don't know. I really liked him as the captain.
Yeah. I agree, but keeping to my rule of only keeping one of the cast, I went with Charlie Hunnam, who's from Pacific Rim and Sons of Anarchy are probably his two most known roles. And I picked him because he's one of those actors that I really enjoy that just always seems to get the short end of the stick.
I just thought of a really good pick that's the exact same way.
Every movie he's in is like not that bad, but it bombs super hard at the box office. I don't know what's wrong. He's like a curse on movies, but he's never bad in them. And I do think he's a decent actor, and I think he could play a similar role in this film, if that makes sense.
It just popped into my head. Michelle Rodriguez. She always plays the same exact character in every single movie she's in, and many times she ends up dying. And she did a lot of like Fast and Furious type stuff. She was in Avatar, where she was like the badass helicopter pilot, but then dies the exact same way that the captain in Prometheus dies.
Don't laugh at me, but she's in the 2000s remake of SWAT with Colin Farrell, LL Cool J, and Samuel L. Jackson.
I recommend Michelle Rodriguez for the role, but I wouldn't recommend Michelle Rodriguez for this particular part. But it just like the way that, like how she goes down with the ship all the time.
Yeah, that's fair. Nick, I don't hate that SWAT movie ever, or either. So if you wanna remake SWAT with me one time on one of the episodes, let me know.
All right.
I remember her from Resident Evil.
Resident Evil, that's right.
Yes.
I don't remember.
She went down.
Yeah.
Yep.
She's also in Lost as well for a little bit.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Show Lost, yeah. Okay, so and just that's the kind of the end of the casting, but I will say that the captain does get a bigger role in my version of the remake, because again, I feel like his character is underdeveloped. All right, so kind of moving on then to the last section, which is, and we've again, like we always do, we kind of chat about some of the things we like and would change throughout the episode. But one of the things I'll start off this section with, one of the things I would keep is the aliens, or the engineers are still, their goal is still to destroy humanity. So in my version of this film, the aliens still got out, killed everyone, and that's the reason that Earth survived initially, is that the ship never took off. what I would change is I don't care for the black goo. I would rather just have literally aliens from like the movie Alien, like the eggs and everything, be the thing that kills the engineers, and not like a proto alien or anything like that. Like they've manufactured these eggs, and that's what's going to kill. Because they do a cool thing in Alien Covenant, the second film to this, they're the sequel to this film, where there's like you can't hear anything in the film or in the environment because the aliens have literally killed it all. So David comes to the film, like basically like drops like the he drops the goo on them essentially, and then like everything just dies. And so in my lore, what I would change for Prometheus in the lore is when they want to destroy a planet, they send this ship, they drop off these eggs, the aliens destroy the entire planet, and then they just never go there again. No one goes there again, and anyone who finds the planet just gets killed or takes it back to their planet. And it's just a constant thing of just like it'll always live. There'll always be an egg there for someone to open and get killed with, that type of thing. So that's what the one thing I'm keeping in the movie is like the engineers want us to die. We're just a mistake, and their goal at the end of the film is still to kill us.
So if I'm understanding correct, the engineers still create the aliens.
Yes.
They still engineer them as the perfect weapon.
Correct.
But you don't keep the touch of the egg-like vases from this movie are weapon canisters. You embrace the engineers are doing biological engineering and design and whatnot, and the
Right,
eggs themselves are the vessel.
Yeah, the eggs themselves, because the original plot, the original premise of this movie is the actual ship from the first Alien movie and the second Alien movie. How did that get there? And that in the original script, that was the plot of how did that ship get to the planet?
I see.
And that ship had the eggs in it. So what I would do is I would just say, listen, instead of this black goo, they've developed the aliens themselves as literally a thing that's supposed to just kill all life on a planet that it goes to. And so that's how they wipe out the mistakes, right? They make humans, okay, humans are a mistake. Let's just go kill them all.
So Prometheus, there's a line of dialogue popping back into my head about how I know they don't actually call it this at any point in the film, but the proto xenomorph is engineered specifically to destroy humans. They actually say Shaw actually says that at one point in the film, that this is an armory, that this is a planet where they develop weapons and we're the target, and it's matched to us. They designed this to destroy us.
Yes,
That's
because they made us, right?
Yeah, like that's the only reasoning she has, and other than that, it's not made really clear. God damn it, this
Yeah,
movie would
but
be
like,
so good if it just made more sense.
well, the reason I say that is because are we going to rip out that bit of dialogue and assume that the xenomorph type species that was created is the all-purpose weapon to destroy anything living, or is this a specific weapon?
I would describe it as a weapon that can destroy any species. If it's on a planet, if it gets out on a planet, it destroys everything.
Because
And
I
that's,
personally
you know,
like the idea of having a tailored xenomorph for what ails you, if you will. Like,
yeah, I mean that could definitely
also
be something we add in.
because that
But
one line of dialogue kind of infers that
yeah,
and leaves that open to future clarification. But I think it also gives a little bit more credence to the engineers as a superior species. If you
true. And I
could
mean they are
design
designed
like that.
specifically for people with mouths. One assumes that you could have an alien species that you come across that doesn't have a mouth or a mouth big enough to insert an egg down or something.
Yeah, what if
Right?
the Davids of the world found a way to reproduce and we
Yeah.
don't understand that methodology? How's a xenomorph going to do that? Just tear them apart? Well, you can't reproduce in a
Right.
robot.
Right.
So
Is the black liquid, is that in any of the other Alien movies?
It is not. It's in the
Ugh.
sequel to Prometheus, but not in any of the previous ones.
Not the original 3.
And
Okay.
one thing to note is in the original plot of the film, there's a lot more lore building because they go into that room with the giant head and it has the crucifix of the alien on it. So they know what an alien looks like, but they haven't designed one yet. Like that doesn't make any sense, right? So I guess for in the lore, that was like a proto alien, like that was almost like their god that they were trying to recreate God themselves, which kind of just seems kind of like a little like jumping the shark to me. But
jumping the shark.
that's
You mean the ship?
no jumping the shark.
You've never heard of the phrase jumping the shark?
I've heard
It's
cart
from
before the
Happy
horse.
Days
It's
where they
from
have
Happy Days,
yeah,
where
where they have a character
have
jump over a shark, but it's like it's
it's
so
the
silly.
Fonz literally
Yeah.
jumps over a shark.
Okay. I missed
You guys
that
have
one.
wait, have half of the podcast never heard of the term jumping the shark?
Jesus Christ,
No.
I thought
guys.
you just made it up.
No,
so
it's
it's used when a situation in a film is so unrealistic that it can only be there so the writers can get through it. Get kind of like
To make
it's
it plausible.
it's very
Put two
corny.
together?
Yeah,
For
right, yeah.
example, the seasons of Archer where they went to like Dreamland and the one after that, to me, that was kind of jumping the shark a little bit. Because like,
You're running out of ideas.
yes,
That's
that's
another
kind of what
term for it,
happened
yeah.
with Happy Days where they had Fonz jump over a shark, either
Yeah.
in like a skidoo or something. And it
Yeah,
was like,
and-
okay, this is,
Sure.
you're running out of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Gosh, I can't believe you guys have never heard of
Yeah.
that before.
I thought
No.
that was commonplace, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
Nope.
You see it all the time.
I can't believe you watched Happy Days.
I've watched
I mean,
some of it, but it's common knowledge.
it's
It's
a
not
like I haven't
yeah.
watched Happy Days, but I know where
Oh.
it's from.
Yeah, that is a common knowledge phrase.
Never
You
heard
guys
it.
are in the wrong, not us here. I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's
The phrase
continue.
the phrase is pejorative and is used to argue that a creative work or outlet appears to be making a stunt in a seemingly exhaustive attempt to generate elevated. I don't know what the next word is because it's just a snippet, but I'm sure it says elevated revenue.
Like
Sure.
steaks or something.
Yeah.
If you say so.
Elevated attention or publicity to something that was once perceived as popular but is no longer. So yeah,
Huh.
like the last couple of seasons of Archer is my example.
Yeah.
Or The Simpsons after the Simpsons movie. They've jumped the shark.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
Gosh,
Jump-
wow.
Jump to the shark, a perfectly normal sentence that a human being would say. Anyways, moving on.
Feel free to cut that entire section.
No, not because I wasn't the person embarrassed. I'm going to go ahead and keep this one in. It's my editor. It's my editor privilege.
Oh.
So, anyways, I can't remember where we were now.
Shit, my bad.
No, it's
Um,
their bad for not knowing where
the-
we're jumping
The
the shark.
crucified alien.
Oh, yeah,
jumped
yeah.
the
So-
shark.
Yeah.
So it's it gets a little silly there. Like I wouldn't do that, but essentially I would just have them be creating aliens. And Nick, to your point, you can have them create any type of alien for any type of species if you want. That's perfectly fine. But basically the point of the movie is like everyone's dead because the aliens broke out in the weapons lab, right? So everything on the planet is dead except for this engineer that's in stasis that they couldn't get to. And essentially what happens, again, in my theory, in my lore, once the aliens have killed everything, they almost like Rain of Fire, that dragon film, they like start killing each other and then go extinct, but the eggs are still there. So then if anyone else ever lands there, there's still a bunch of eggs around. Now, and I would also have like a lot more dead engineers. And instead of the middle part where we're doing this horror film where like people are dying from like weird ass snake things and goo, I would have them exploring the planet, figuring out what this place is, figuring out what happened, seeing a lot more dead bodies and like chest bursting stuff, things like that. And have a lot more of an exploration film as opposed to a horror film in the middle of it, while building characters so that when the film comes to the end, you can kind of have these important decisions that actually make sense based on like who the characters are and how they've interacted and that type of thing.
Can I make a left turn that's going to be the biggest,
No.
nerdiest thing I've
Nope.
ever said? And probably, Pat, you're the only one that's going to understand what the hell I'm trying to say.
We jumping more
Absolutely.
sharks here.
No, we're not. So the black liquid, like infecting people and kind of turning them into this vessel for the aliens to reproduce, really reminds me of, I can't believe I'm going to say this, really reminds me of Magic the Gathering lore and how the Phyrexians have the glistening oil to kind of infect whoever they're trying to complete, which
Yeah.
is spelled Compleat. And through a process called phyresis to turn them into like full-blown Phyrexians, which is kind of like a half machine, half organic, kind of like Magic the Gathering's version of the Borg. Wow, I'm going real deep into the nerdiness here.
Yeah,
It
you
is,
are.
yeah.
Wow. So yeah, that's what kind of, like when I think about it, it's like this is very Phyrexian with the black liquid.
That makes super sense. Actually, I doubt Ridley Scott has played Magic, but
Maybe the
and
writer
Rid-
did.
yeah, maybe they are very similar. Actually, now that you mention it, and like it's like corrupting and turning them into like you say, like these kind of like evil, like machine organic hybrid versions of themselves, right?
Yeah, like look at Holloway. Like he got infected and then he seemed like he was almost, I don't want to say possessed, but like seething with the weirdness.
Yeah, and even the alien head they take from the room when they like put electricity in it, like it starts growing again and just explodes his head.
Yeah, I don't understand why they felt the need to do that anyway, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Another nitpicky thing is how long it takes them to make sure a room is safe. Like the head, while it's exploding, is slowly being put back into this chamber, and then the chamber has to slowly close. And I'm like, why would you perform an operation here that requires that level of safety and have it take that? Anyways, that's another nitpick for our team
Plot
nitpicky over
armor.
here. Yeah, plot armor. So yeah, but I agree with you that the goo, again, that's why I take it out. It kind of just doesn't need to be in the film at all to me. Another thing I want to happen is I want to keep Wayland's existence on the ship as a secret until he's actually woken up. About halfway through the movie, they do a scene that's completely unnecessary where David is clearly talking to someone. Gee, I guess who could it possibly be, right? And it's Wayland, obviously. And then he has a confrontation with Vickers about it. I would much rather just have that hologram of him and literally say, by the time you see this, I'll be dead probably. And then have like a secret compartment where David like resuscitates him later. And so it can become it's the type of thing that would be a good twist in a film if it wasn't both telegraphed and literally shown on screen. Like pretty early on in the film. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah. I also
I
feel
don't
like
know.
that the way that he's like the way that Shaw kind of like literally stumbles into him, it just seems very sloppy.
I don't know that you could pull that off. Like it doesn't pass a logic check for me. That
Explain.
A captain and the controlling force in Vickers
Would not know what
they're
carrying.
a considerable portion of the ship has in it.
Hold on a second. David knows and Vickers knows. They all know he's alive. The captain doesn't necessarily have to know. He's not the sign. He's like the flying the ship guy, right?
So when you're saying secret, you mean Vickers and David can still know. It's just the
Oh,
audience can't
Yes,
know.
yeah. It's just the audience doesn't
I
know.
see.
The other characters don't know, and the audience isn't told that he's gonna be around, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Wayland has to be a better antagonist for me because I think he is the main antagonist of this film. And, you know, if you look at what he does in the film, he rejects his daughter's kind of need for affection. That's Vickers, right?
Mhm.
So he's a very selfish person. He has his own legacy. He rejects David's humanity, like calls him tells him he has no soul to his face.
Which
So
is
he's just,
terrible.
yeah. So
No wonder why he decides to kill everybody.
exactly. So David is an object to him. He rejects Shaw's faith, right? For him, every question has an answer, but like in a bad way. And he rejects the captain's kind of nihilism. So for him, life has to mean something because he has to be important. Whereas for the captain is just kind of he goes with the flow, right? Like nothing bothers him at all. Like even when he's dying at the end, he's like, well, guess we got to kamikaze this ship. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I would, kind of do a better job. Maybe you have a couple scenes of hologram Wayland where he has like holograms for specific occasions, if when the ship lands, that type of stuff. Wayland, realistically, I know the engineer ends up being an antagonist, but of the human characters, there's always one person who's bad, and it's normally the android. And in fact, when it's not the android in the second Alien film, that's a kind of play against type, right? You expect the android to be bad, and then it's actually the good guy.
That was actually one of my nitpicks in the beginning. Was that this movie at first couldn't decide whether it wanted to be an Alien movie or a Terminator movie.
Yeah, I did read about that too. When they were
Really?
Yeah, when they were making the movie, it was like, oh, well, David is the most interesting part. And then when they made like Alien Covenant or something like that, they wanted to explore
Oh, yeah.
more of David and more of the AI piece of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, are we
If
talking about aliens or are we talking about Terminator?
if you like David in this movie, Alien Covenant is fantastic.
What's the gore level in Covenant?
It's significantly higher and way better. Like one of the, if I remember correctly, one of the chest bursters like comes out of someone's spine.
Ew!
Nope. I will never see that movie.
Hard pass.
It's got a great cast as well.
You make me want to watch that movie now.
I want to watch it. Yeah, it's great. But yeah, if you like David from Prometheus and you haven't seen the follow up, you get quite literally double the David, and it's fantastic.
I do like David from this movie, but this movie really tested my limits for gore capacity.
You had to cover your face with a pillow.
Yes, me and the pillow got
Wow.
real close.
It's
Like,
not.
even-
It's not that gory.
N-
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like 2 spots with
Nope.
an alien.
There were a couple of places where I had to look away, and usually I'm pretty good with gore. Like the part where the alien jumped down their throats, I just couldn't with that. I was just like, oh god, nope, can't do this. I gotta look away.
I believe the word you're looking
Uh.
for is when the alien penetrated their throats.
Not a good enough.
Not a good enough reason to use the word penetrate.
Yeah, so to put this in context, and I'm about to out myself to the internet. Y'all remember Tropic Thunder?
Yes.
When dude
Wait,
gets
are you going to say
blown
the
up by a
hands?
landmine?
Yeah.
Was that too
and
much for you?
They have like the head on the stick, and he's all like, ah. Yeah.
That's too much for you?
I almost threw up. I cannot do gore.
All right. So kind of next up then, kind of the last couple things that I would change. The captain I've mentioned before, I think doesn't get enough screen time and or character development. I would have him get a little more screen time so that his decision to sacrifice himself means more. So like, he's just here for the job. He doesn't really have, at least as far as we know, a connection to anyone on Earth. And so his decision to kill himself and the ship to save the Earth has to come from like an empathy for the species as a whole, instead of like, oh, my wife lives at home or something.
Yeah, that could be so easy to fix too.
And I really like the captain. He was my favorite character, so I would absolutely be in favor of seeing more of him.
A 30-second clip of, oh, I miss my baby. It was her 14th birthday today, or something like that,
Yeah, he's great. He's a great character, but like I would make him almost like a nihilist, right? Like nothing really matters, and in the end, he has to kind of decide, hey, it matters. Like what I'm doing matters. Why I'm doing it matters. And so he decides to kamikaze the ship to keep, again, the same ending for me. He keeps the ship from leaving the planet and going to kill everyone on Earth. And that decision is still the same. And that ending is still the same, but we have a little more context because the captain becomes more of a main character as opposed to a side character with a lot of screen time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then the big one for me is I really don't like almost everything that happens once Wayland takes off, or once Wayland wakes up, needs to change. Like that engineer scene with Wayland and David is not long enough. Like you finally met a god. And I don't mind the fact that he kills everyone and then goes to try and kill all humanity, but like I want more from that. I want
Yeah, they could
to
have carried on a conversation.
Yeah, what oh my god, I would love to know what the engineer thought David actually said.
so from what I understand, the engineer was upset that humanity had lasted long enough to create its own version of life, aka the AI David.
Okay.
So that's why it kills David and kills Wayland, because Wayland is asking it for external life. And so I kind of want a more extended scene of them talking with the alien about like, why did you make us? And can I live forever from Wayland and that type of thing. Obviously, I'm not a film writer, so a screenwriter would have to come in and do a better job than what I'm describing here. But I just don't like the idea that the end of the movie is a quick scene with the engineer in which a bunch of people die, then the engineer coming to kill Shaw, and then getting eaten by a weird giant alien. Somehow it got big for some reason. I don't care for that at all. I wouldn't mind the end of the film, the engineer getting face hugged though, as like a oh no, it's got him, right? Because like I said, there would be eggs everywhere. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the ending of the film. I know you guys just kind of talked about and agreed with the fact that that scene is too short. Does anyone have any other things about the ending aside
I
from the ship rolling scene, which we can all agree is
truly
just
awful.
right? Like just I don't even mind if she stood there and she didn't have time to run and she's just like, God damn it, and dies. But like the fact that she's running in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
So annoying to me.
agree. So much agree.
Yeah.
And I'm in agreement with you that that scene needs to be longer, that there needs to be an actual common dialogue between the engineers and David and humans.
Yeah.
In that, and I can almost visualize it where the engineers the engineer is like, how dare you? The audacity that you bring to this room. Do you know where you stand? Do you
Yeah.
understand what this place is and why it exists? And you think you can demand everlasting life from me?
I mean,
Immense ripping of heads.
at the same time, I'm really glad there wasn't like a long monologue about it.
No, I know. I'm not saying like a long monologue, but like, give me a little bit of the Goa'uld from Stargate SG-1 or something. Like, give
Right.
me a
Right.
little bit of that.
Give the engineer version of a villain's speech
Yeah.
before he murders everyone. And you can even do it smartly. Like when David walks through to get to the engineer, there's that room with all of the weapons. You could have that be the room where the eggs are kept. David walking through doesn't trigger it because he's not a person. But when the human beings walk through to get to there, the eggs start opening up, and then when they run away, all of a sudden the eggs are open now, and the facehuggers start jumping at people, and that way the engineer doesn't have to walk to one person at a time and go, I boop you on the head. I boop you on the head, right? Like he kills David, he kills Wayland, and then everyone else can run, and like Holloway can get like face hugged or something, and whoever else is left. And then that way, like, because humans walked through the room, they kind of activated the eggs, knowing that there's a biological thing nearby, and so they open up, and then on their way back, they get face hugged, and then it can be kind of like, oh, okay, the end of this movie is like the beginning of how like the alien interacts with humans or something. Does that make sense?
It does. One question for you in that I do not recall how the Alien franchise really kicked off. Did they know of the Prometheus expedition?
It's hard to tell. I don't know in extended lore what the answer is, but my guess is yes, because the in the first Alien movie, the mining ship is sent there on purpose
Okay.
to investigate this signal, and they so they knew, and the robot Ash, who was the android, and he's the villain of the film, outside of the alien, of course, is sent instructions by the corporation to bring back the sample intact. So they obviously know something about it, and I would assume that the head honchos at Wayland would know something, right?
Okay. The reason why I ask is because the only reason I really held on for the last, 15, 20, maybe a half hour of the movie was because word had to get out. There had to be a survivor to tell the story. I did not
Yeah.
expect it to be Shaw and David leaving, but there had to be someone to get the story out there. And if we're doing this alternative narrative of the interaction with the engineer is what triggers the room next door being the egg chamber, triggers the whole horror side of the movie after we just had, a good hour and a half of explanation and where did we come from and subterfuge with Waylon. You know, the escape of the egg room, the chase by the engineer, that could be the horror side. And whomever, whether it's Shaw and David or any other cast members, making it back to the ship and taking off. Include some drama about the ship barely being able to escape and they had to jettison the lifeboat and the lifeboat's what got them the rest of the way or something like that. Like put that spin on there. Actually use the lifeboat from that you hinted at the beginning of the movie or something.
Yeah, I didn't like how they just kind of threw it
Cast
away,
it away.
you know?
Oh crap, we laid this framework and we got nothing to do with it now, so let's just eject it.
One thing to note is at the end of the film, there is a transmission from Shaw saying, "Do not come here."
Yeah,
So
he does say that.
presumably that has been
I see. That's
caught.
the signal.
Presumably that's been caught. So someone at Wayland probably knows that something bad is out there, and basically the villains of the Alien franchise are not just Wayland, but like the bioweapons division. Every time it's them trying to get the alien so they can study it and use it as a weapon. And obviously every time it backfires. And the goal is if the alien ever gets back to Earth, everyone on Earth is dead. So the fourth film, Alien Resurrection, which is pretty bad, but the whole point, I'll just give you a cliff notes of the Alien or the movie to give you how bad it is. One would say it jumps the shark. In fact, so Ripley gives birth to an alien that looks like an alien-human hybrid. Like it has like a human face, kind of. And then they're flying down to Earth and she has to like it's her child and it loves her, so it won't kill her. And she literally basically kisses it goodbye before she kicks it out an airlock. It's real bad. It's a real bad film. But the point of the whole franchise is if we mess with this, we'll kill everyone, right? It's not that we don't want Wayland to be all powerful with this weapon. It's that they literally can't control it. It's designed to kill everything, including the people who unleash it. So that's kind of the main thrust of the Alien franchise. And I think Wayland not understanding that and always being the Wayland Corporation not understanding that and kind of grabbing power, going for power and thinking that the hubris that they can control it is kind of part of the point of the Alien franchise, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It does.
I like the idea of that signal being what triggers this signal for the original trilogy as well.
Right. So she takes off in one of the ships, right? Another one of the ships.
Yeah.
So you could have it tied directly into the first Alien, which the signal they pick up from that derelict ship could be the same type of signal that they got from Shaw from Prometheus. So now Wayland knows for a fact that this is another alien ship, and then they send the crew of the Nostromo to go
Yeah.
get it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is a sidebar. The podcast is over, but Alien Covenant really is a fantastic film that I don't hear a lot of people talk about. It's honestly probably the third best Alien film behind Alien and Aliens. And it's because David is in it. I feel like I would want you, Nick, to watch the movie just solely based on the fact that there's David is in it. And like you can skip kind of the gory parts, just assume they die because they die every time. All right, so kind of moving on then. What is everyone's kind of final thoughts? What's kind of the last word here on the film?
I mean, this movie was strange. Like, I watched it and I was like, I don't really know what to think about this. I enjoyed it in the sense that it wasn't a waste of my time and that I was entertained for 2 hours. But
Yeah, I mean,
I was left wanting. I wanted more
yes, I
from,
agree.
yeah, I wanted more from the story. And I think the changes that you've proposed, Pat, would probably make it better.
Whoa. I proposed some good changes.
Yes, the changes that you also proposed.
Thank you.
You plural.
Well, you said you, Pat.
All right.
Use Pats.
use Pats.
Yeah. So
Use all Pats.
I think in conclusion for me, this is a film that was so hyped up that it disappointed a lot of the fans of the Alien franchise, but I think it's gotten more love as the years go on. And like I said, I'm going to be playing an Aliens role-playing game, and I can't wait to get in. I hope there's a bunch of Prometheus lore in there. I hope there's a bunch of engineer lore in there. I'm hyped for it. But it is a film that I think has gotten more and more respect from the fan base over the years, as kind of like, people mellow out. Like I was a hardcore Star Wars fan, and now when they make a bad Star Wars product, I'm like, whatever, I don't care anymore. Like, good for you, Disney. Keep pumping them out. That's fine. But when they make good Star Wars, I'm still here for it, and I'm still ready to be disappointed and ready to give it a watch. It's the same with this. Like if they came up with another Prometheus movie, like another follow up to Alien Covenant, I'd be in the theaters for it. No matter what the reviews said, I'd go to the theaters and I'd see the movie to give it a chance. And I think a lot of the fans had initially negative reviews, but as time goes on, they can appreciate what it was trying to do, even if it didn't succeed. Does that make sense?
And someday, it'll be as good as Predator.
End of podcast. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Original Remake Podcast. If you'd like to provide feedback or have a question, please email us at remake.cast@gmail.com. We'll be back with another episode in 2 weeks.